Hey folks, how's it going? Welcome to the Salesforce Build Process Workshop 2015. We're just about to start kicking off things here. We're at WeWork in LA on Hollywood Boulevard in La Brea. I'm just going to go ahead and turn the computer around so you can see the crowd before we get started. So for all of you that weren't able to make it today, thanks for tuning in. And if you're live or watching the recorded version, I hope you enjoy and learn something.
That's funny.
What's that?
It's funny how you got the video pointed this way.
Very nice. Auto fan, like a sprinkler. Harder, better, faster, stronger. You got it. HDMI. No. Jenkins. Original. Come on. There we go. "25 minutes from Wi-Fi." Okay. The Skype will show up on the Hangout through my screen. Blur out.
We're gonna celebrate one more time. One more time.
All right, folks, I pulled up the GitHub account for our developer group. If you haven't checked it out yet, please do. For every event that we have, I'm still working on Salesforce, like a Salesforce organization, where we can actually log in and use Salesforce for the developer group, right? Instead of like be on meetup.com, which as great as it is for suggestions and getting you here, you can't upload a PDF, right? You can only do something on Meetup. So for every group, I have made a repository as of about 3 or 4 meetups ago. You'll notice that we do have some apps that are here. For example, I created a IV jar sample, which is incomplete, but there's an app, Force, which George was there to help me on last summer. And that's basically an app that is going to be a managed package to help not only developer group organizers organize these, but also for you to learn about events, go somewhere and see code, right? And maybe have kind of like custom objects for events so that you can go and see topics. And they'll have links out to the GitHub repos still, right? We wouldn't want to house that in Salesforce because it's a lot of space, but it's also just not the venue to keep code. So on GitHub, I do have a Build Process Workshop 2015 repo, which in the README here, I think I've got a couple pull requests actually. Somebody that's going to present tonight was going to put a link here that I'm going to put there, but I should have a lot already here. You'll notice that we've got links to the slide decks, whether they're available, and the repo where available. And so just to get a show of hands, who here has used Git before? Or any version control? Subversion, Git, Perforce, Microsoft something. It was a while after I started using version control before it was actually with multiple developers. It's coming from a Salesforce, strictly Salesforce background. I didn't learn like Java first and then jump to Salesforce. It was kind of like Salesforce was my first programming language on the job. And so it was really like backing up my stuff, right? Because nobody else was taking care of it. So just to give you an idea, that's where I come from on version control. But a lot of my experience has been in Git. And I think 2 years ago I started using it just because everybody was. But I was still using Subversion because I didn't know, my way around Git yet. But I've been using Git solid for about a year. They're amazing tutorials, so I'm not going to try to walk you through everything on Git, but the speakers, since we're going to have our 3 speakers that are remote talk first, since they're either further east than us or going further east than us. Actually, one of our speakers is on his way to the airport. Anybody know Code Fire? That name ring a bell? Code Fire in Portland. So he's actually in Portland right now after being in San Francisco for the MVP Summit. So he's going to speak first. But just to give you an intro, if you're not at the point where using Git, Ant, feels comfortable, right? Like if you're at a point where I was about a year and a half ago, where you can copy and paste, and if you get the Salesforce AMP jar in the right place, hopefully you can maybe retrieve something, right? And not have to write your own head API Java thing, because you're not doing that. Yeah. So if you need to poke around on that, I know that the talks first will probably be a little more high level. It's more about automating your whole process, right? Once you know that, okay, I can use AMP, but how do I still make that conveyor belt to get my finished product down the release process so that you're not sitting up at 10 o'clock at night? Kevin's going to be talking about kind of full level polyglot continuous delivery, right? So Apex JavaScript, not just one thing, testing, not just unit tests, but also any front end tests you have. So if you're looking to get started, I do have links here. How to go get Git. If you don't have a homebrew and you have a Mac or one of these, I would suggest getting that. It's a very easy way to get more things. It's like not having the app store for command line to not have these. So it will be a lot less work. So maybe if you find the first talk or two over your head, feel free to go there to the repo. And again, that's on github.com. It's just Los Angeles Salesforce Developer Group, separated by the hyphen dash. And the repo is Build Process Workshop 2015. Here we go. All right, and let's see, what intro do I have for Alex Sutherland? I actually haven't looked a lot up about him, but I was looking at source control on the Salesforce platform. Let's see, I was looking at this, version control integrated with the platform. Is it coming? And it has a link to, oh, I think somebody had this idea posted 8 years ago, and it was Alex Sutherland. It would be great if we could have source control, and let's see, this was my favorite part. And it should, where's the editor? It's the second comment. Yes, and it should have an editor for Apex and S controls. Has anybody ever written an S control here? No. Has anybody ever seen an S control installed? No. The good old days. So let's see. I think I'm going to go ahead and connect with Alex, and he's going to give his talk on continuous delivery of success, how the Salesforce platform enables organizations to continuously adapt to change. And here we go. I'm going to go ahead and call up. And also Daniel and Kevin, if you're on, go ahead and mute. 1 second. Hey there, Alex. Can you hear us?
Yes, I can. Can you hear me?
I can. I'm going to turn up the mic volume. I think that's going in as the mic. No, it's dock volume. All right. We can hear you loud and clear.
Fantastic.
Oh, wait. No, you're going to share your screen with us.
Yes, I am. There's a bit of an echo.
I'm going to go ahead and mute us.
Okay, sounds good. All right, and let me know if you can't see the screen. Let me start my slides.
Give me 1 sec. I'm going to switch the Google Hangout to share screens.
All right, sounds good.
Let's do. Just do Skype. Let's just do Skype. Okay, share. And if I mute this, we're not going to get the audio on the Hangout. Okay. Do you have headphones, Alex? Because if I mute my computer, it won't go on the Hangout. Oh, can you hear me? Alex, can you hear me?
Oh, sorry. I'm on mute. Yeah, you have a headset. So I can just turn my audio down so that I'm not hearing myself echo as much.
Okay, perfect. Sorry about that. Yeah, that'll. But because if I mute this, then it won't be on the recording.
Yeah, no worries.
All right, yeah, it's all on you.
All right, very good. All right, you can see my slides, cool. All right, well, thanks for the opportunity to present. And I apologize, everybody. I picked up a cold this weekend, so I'm a little hoarse, and I might have to probably mute myself to spare you any loud noises. But I'm excited to talk about continuous delivery nonetheless. So I covered this. I did this talk a few months ago. I'm working on a project, a really large enterprise, and they have a very kind of old school mindset to releases and delivering functionality to their end users. And it was really hampering our ability to get things out the door because things were so complicated. And every time they released, it was so massive that there were just constantly a huge number of problems in the run up to the release and in the release itself. So I was thinking about this, and I had done a fair amount of research in continuous integration over the years, and I was doing some more on that and discovered the concept of continuous delivery. And I thought that it was a really useful concept for Salesforce organizations and environments to try to implement. And I thought the Salesforce platform was well suited to the concept of continuous delivery. So that's the genesis of this talk. Can you guys see my slides, Vance?
Looking good.
All right, great. So that's who I am, and get past that. So talk a little about the background of continuous delivery, some kind of general elements of success that are broad principles in the software development environment, and then some specific considerations for the Salesforce platform, and then Q&A if there's any questions at the end. So continuous delivery, the term and the concept was coined about 2010 by the guys over at ThoughtWorks, who are a kind of a boutique consulting firm that focuses on agile and helping large organizations deliver software with better quality and deliver it faster. And they've been kind of thought leaders for continuous integration. And as they've continued to evolve that concept, they developed this idea of continuous delivery, and they wrote the book on it, literally. So the definition they have from their material, they got a portion of it here, but the core idea is that every change to a system is releasable, and really want to make releases boring. It's kind of a phrase that everybody I've given this talk to so far has really latched onto, and it's really what kind of drew me to this concept. As well, because our releases on this project were not boring whatsoever, and we really wanted to take away some of the quote-unquote excitement that we had at the time. So another thing is that continuous delivery helps Agile be more effective because you're getting functionality out to the users much more quickly than a monthly or quarterly release cycle. So you're really able to keep the users and stakeholders much more closely tied to your Agile iterative process and make it more effective. So just as a visual concept to help kind of creatively point out the differences, when I was throwing slides and talking together, I was up in Boston at the World Tour and had a great sushi dinner the night before. I was like, I think that's a pretty good metaphor for continuous delivery versus going out and hunting whales, which unfortunately a lot of releases, even the Salesforce platform in large enterprises sometimes feels like. And I don't know about you, but I'd much rather be in the upper right than the upper left, than the lower right. I've been on too many of those little boats in the ocean getting smacked around by whale releases, and it's not fun. So that's kind of the contrast I wanted to paint. And so the concept of continuous delivery, just a few points about it. I really become convinced that Salesforce is a continuous delivery platform out of the box, and some of my esteemed colleagues on the call might want to debate that with me. And technically, there's Salesforce is very unique compared to most of the environments where continuous delivery is being implemented. Think of some of the big names that you recognize, like doing continuous delivery: Facebook, Google, Amazon, they're always continuously releasing software to their production platforms. They're releasing updates to those platforms. So, and Salesforce doesn't do that to their platform yet. They do about, the number I heard is about 800 releases a year, which obviously multiple releases a day, but that's probably different parts of the platform. So they say that we're not truly continuous delivery yet, but for Salesforce environment, Salesforce customers, it really can be, because with continuous delivery, so many organizations, their releases are so expensive and so failure prone, because they're having to compile this massive Java application and deploy all these servers and databases and everything. And Salesforce abstracts all that for us. So that's why I assert that Salesforce is a continuous delivery platform, because you can make changes to the schema, to your code, to the interface for users seamlessly, and there's no interruption in service for the users. It might take a little bit longer for a page to refresh by a second or two, but you don't have to take the system down to do a modification to the application. So that's why I make that assertion. And one of the reasons that I wanted to put this talk out there, and I made it non-technical, was that I really felt that, and really the challenges that we faced were not from the technical side so much, but more from the functional side, and from the business analysts and stakeholders that were afraid of change and making change so rapidly in the system and releasing things as they were ready, instead of piling up a bunch of changes and releasing them in one big deployment. So I really feel that it's important for the business and for the analysts and admins and everybody who uses the system to buy into the concept of continuous integration and continuous delivery in order for it to really be successful. You can figure out how to build all the wonderful continuous integration infrastructure, but if you don't get buy-in from the end users and the folks who are deciding whether or not something can go to production, then it's not going to do you any good. So, and I think that you can gradually get yourself there. It's not something where you have to do a big bang transformation like going from waterfall to agile. You can slowly start to do things more iteratively in smaller pieces more frequently, and you don't have to throw everybody in the deep end with continuous delivery. And it's something that I argue can be done manually to help get people comfortable with the concept before you automate it. We'll get into that a little bit later. And to help make that case, I think it's fairly straightforward to show end users and stakeholders the advantages of doing this. There'll probably be some resistance and some reticence about it, but really you can explain to them that, you know, we can respond more quickly and more effectively and with better quality if we do these things more frequently, even daily or multiple times a day. And we can communicate in such a way that you won't be lost and you won't be bewildered by changes going on in the system. We'll do it in such a way that we're not shifting the ground under your feet, so to speak, which is often people's concern and resistance or fears about continuous delivery. And the biggest point is that continuous delivery is a discipline, and you have to stay focused on it, stay committed to it for it to be successful. If you get out of your rhythm, if you say, well, we'll take a break from it for a while to do this big release, then you're probably going to kind of fall back to old patterns of big releases and have lots of problems and get things out of sync and out of touch with what's going on with the users in production. So that's the key, is that like any process or pattern, it's something that you have to practice regularly or it's going to start to break down. So a few more thoughts on how you make it successful. From a functional standpoint, you really need a process in place that keeps everybody informed of what's been decided to be developed in the system, and a way to get those decisions out to users so they're aware of what's changing, how it's changing. What's nice with the Salesforce platform is you've got a great medium for that built right in the platform with Chatter. So you get users into a group where you say, hey, we're going to communicate about changes to the system in here, and you can make posts multiple times a day to keep them informed if you're changing things that frequently, and they can go back and reference them. You You can communicate in real time with your users about those changes. So I think that's a good place to do it. And your development organization has to be, and your IT or governance organization has to be responsive to changing and adapting quickly to changes that the users call for. So if you're used to having really long sprint or long development cycles, you probably have to have a little bit of a culture change to really support this process. And also you're gonna have to get used to making changes very granularly, very atomic, releasing pieces of functionality. A lot of times, for example, what we'll do is we'll push schema changes to production before we push the code changes, depending on those schema changes, as long as there's no dependencies that exist in the current production system. We'll make those changes to those dependencies as well, and then push the new features that depend on the new schema changes, things like that. So you need to break things up in really small pieces, and you have to make sure that all those dependencies are taken care of with each change. So you need to have comprehensive testing to ensure that things are solid as you're releasing them and deploying them. And automation, as we'll hear from my colleagues later, that to make this really successful, automation is going to be pretty key. Like I said, you can do it manually, and to some extent in our project we're doing it manually, but it's going to be much more successful if you automate. Particularly with testing, and Salesforce forces us to be pseudo test-driven development, but you're going to be more successful if you have true test-driven development. You're really testing user stories, you're asserting things, you're not just going for the minimum code coverage required, trying to get out there so you can deploy. You need to have a thorough and robust testing strategy to make it work. And also, if you really, the holy grail is getting to the point of automated UI testing with something like Selenium. There's a great package called Cinnamon for doing that with the Salesforce platform. And that's by far the most robust way to ensure that your changes are stable and aren't going to break existing functionality. And the biggest thing I think is courage and communicating with people and getting them comfortable and saying, you know what, we're scared, but we're just going to do this. We're going to make changes, and we're going to make them frequently so that we can adapt. And one of the things that I mentioned in one of the previous talks was that really I think the only way to be able to keep up with all the changes that we're seeing in the marketplace, certainly all the trends that Salesforce is promoting as being keys to customer success with Internet of Things and mobile and social and all those other aspects of business on the internet, you really have to be really flexible and be constantly adapting your applications to take advantage of those channels for communicating with your customers. So I think continuous delivery is the only way to really effectively keep up with all that. So let's talk about some more specifics. I mentioned a few, but let's cover a few more. Now, if you're on, I doubt any developer is on this, but I like to give this talk to admins because I really want them to understand this concept. And some of them are on professional edition or in group edition. So I tell them like, hey, you're already doing continuous delivery because all the changes you make have to be in production. You even have access to sandbox environments. So, but even in enterprise edition, at higher environments, sometimes you just need to make a change directly in production. And while that may not always be advisable, sometimes even there's things that you can't change and deploy through change sets at the API. So you have no choice but to make them directly in production. And sometimes just in terms of expediency and speed, you have to do it there as well. So that's why I said, Salesforce platform enables you to continuously deliver changes because it's production is the master, and everything else sort of flows from that. But to make it successful, I mentioned earlier making changes to schema, objects, and fields, and validation rules, things like that. So declarative changes are the first thing that you make granular and deploy the most often. So they're the lowest cost and easiest changes to make. So I think it makes a lot of sense to make those changes as in as small batches as possible, and deploy them very frequently to keep your environment fresh. And then as you make those changes, refresh your sandboxes frequently to keep them as close to in sync with production as possible. And if you're going to automate, you're probably not going to do this, but for admins who want to kind of live by the continuous delivery mantra, deploying the change sets is probably the most robust way to do this, since it gives you an audit trail of changes you make, and you have good visual feedback on the platform of your test executions as you're doing deployments. So they're probably the most streamlined way to move those changes between environments. Feature flags are a very important aspect of delivery in traditional software development. If you're building a big Java application or something like that, and continually delivering changes to that. But you can do that in Salesforce too, and I think it's a very important aspect of this, changing things in production frequently, and you need to kind of gradually, or perhaps only deliver changes to users on a less frequent basis where they see those changes, and you can use the tools that Salesforce offered with custom settings and custom metadata and Boolean fields and others to only expose those changes to users once they're complete, or expose them to certain groups of users for a pilot or a beta purpose, things like that. So keep in mind that you have a lot of flexibility with those tools to configure how people see the changes that you're making on a regular basis. Page layouts and record types and permission sets have been on the platform for a long time, and they're also declared changes that really make it easy to kind of hide the things that are changing under the surface until they're completely ready, but lets you granularly deploy those changes and deliver continuously to your environment. And then Salesforce continues to provide more and more declarative features with their process automation. So you can do lots of branching and parallel processing workflow rules and process builder and validation rules and all those features that allow you to have development progress even in your production environment while still supporting the current business process and what the users are used to seeing, and so you communicate those changes to the system to them. So the major thought that I like to leave with admins and developers as well is that you should constantly make changes in your Salesforce environment every day. You should be looking for something to improve. I've never looked at an environment where I didn't see something that, or I didn't see a lot of things that could have been improved. And really, usually what happens is environments get stale and the backlog of improvements gets so huge that it's just impossible to keep up. There's so many things that make users' lives easier, like help text and field descriptions and better page layouts and all sorts of things like that. You can constantly be improving those things, and especially if you're communicating with users regularly, that will make them happier, more productive, and get you better feedback, get them kind of over some of the annoying things that they have to deal with, so that they can give you more useful feedback on the features that they would like to see developed. So that is the gist of my thoughts on delivery resources. And I will put this slide here.
One second there, Kevin, are you on?
I am. Can you hear me, Chris?
Yeah. Could you mute your microphone real quick?
I will.
You got it. All right. Sorry, Alex. Go ahead.
Yeah, no worries. I was just wrapping up anyway. So yeah, so I'll get these slides out there so everybody can put these links, but it's pretty easy to do all this stuff as well. We're in the process of using Atlassian's tools to try to get all these things automated in the project we're working on. And like any complex automation project, we're facing some challenges, but Atlassian did talk last year for us about how they've automated their collaborative Salesforce development, and it's a good talk, and we've got some really powerful tools for it. So that's another stack that we can look at for pulling all these things together to get at least as close as possible to automated continuous delivery on the Salesforce platform. So that, are there any questions about, or if you got a different perspective, I'd love to hear anybody's feedback about the idea of continuous delivery with the Salesforce platform.
He's able to hear us, so anybody have any questions about maybe considerations for what you're doing at your company, or how to get started? If you don't have any questions about what we discovered. No? All right. Well, we got 2 more speakers after this, so thank you so much, Alex. Looks like everybody's getting it, and no questions at this time.
Cool. And if you have anything after the fact, I'd love to get feedback through any of the channels you can find me online.
Perfect. All right. Thank you so much.
Gladly.
All right. Let's see.
I think we're gonna go ahead and take like a 2-minute break, 2-3-minute break, just if anybody needs to get some water or throw away the plate of no more pizza. Yeah, so we're gonna go ahead and put yes, and there is still the beer, I think, might be staying cold. It's not getting much colder, so please help me carry home an empty Ointe rather than a full one. This is Hollywood Boulevard. I'm sure I can get help with that if you don't want to take the opportunity. Also, I do want to note for the Hangout, I did try to angle the speakers so that we got better audio, but there was no video for some reason because I was in full screen Skype for about the first half of the talk, but I did fix that. Also, the slides are available on the GitHub account, so you can just match the audio with the slide share available. And we're going to give you a couple minutes.
Let's see.
Wi-Fi password?
Yeah, it's video and audio. So right now, that's what I use.
Let's see. I think it's doing oh, and it's still sharing his screen. I am screen sharing.
But I mean, the speakers would have to go on the Google Hangout to
There we go. Perfect. Daniel's getting set up. Look at this. Running so smooth. Awesome.
Also, if anybody's interested, please, on I guess meetup.com is the main venue of communication about the group right now. We're trying to transition to the Salesforce platform. So if anybody wants to help out at all with the developer group, that could be arranging pizza, which will be paid on. We get reimbursed for a certain amount for running developer groups. Whether that be, setting up the food or a venue. If anybody knows an office that has venue space available in LA County, I work remotely, so I've gone down to Howard Hughes, and on Thursday there's an event on Wilshire and near San Vicente. It's at Crescent Solutions staffing, and we're going to be going over kind of some more simple, not build process, but okay, how do you move something into a change set? How do you make a custom button on a page? And what is that? And what's supported in Salesforce One? So we're going to be taking very simple components. We're not going to be developing them, but we're going to be saying, okay, we've got a visual force page and we've got a custom button. What are the repercussions of those? How is an admin or developer going to use Salesforce? So we could need help from anything from pizza to programming, right? I'd love to get our developer group repo made so that we can have members in Salesforce or even chat for users, right? Something where I can post an event on Salesforce and we can collaborate, if that's community or not. So any follow-up, please hit me up to the meetup group. Direct message me. That's probably the best way for me to check meetup related stuff. to any repos that you feel, and even if it's clarifying the repeat in something, I know that I don't know Markdown a lot. If you want to make a Wikipedia contribution, right, of the year to make the developer group, upload PDF if you have a recording. GitHub's free, it's a public repo, so there's your free file storage for
There is a light to what is darkness if only we find us and telling us how we should be. I refuse to have you break me when you know you ain't getting
All right, folks. Our next speaker hails from Colorado, and has anybody here heard of roll-up summaries? You know, the master detail, you can do that, but with a lookup, you can't really do that. But somebody made a declarative lookup roll-up summary. That was Anthony Fawcett. But you'll notice that on that GitHub repo, it is integrated with Travis to continuously build. And that was our next speaker, Daniel. How do you pronounce your last name?
It's Daniel Oaks. So, and can you hear me all right, everybody?
We can hear you perfect.
All right, great. Yeah, so I'll just give you guys a, so that's me. I'm actually in Utah. I'm next to Colorado, but not quite. So I'm the lead developer and architect at ARUP Laboratories here as part of the University of Utah. And as part of that role, I have a couple of developers that work with me and a couple of admins. And so we have a pretty good sized Salesforce team that all have to work together in one org. Well, we have to end up in one org, I guess, essentially, but we have to work together there. So if you guys want to reach out to me later, that's my Twitter handle, dhoax, and I'm just going to move right on. So before I get started into the tech, I'm going to give you, we're going to get hands-on here and actually get into the nitty-gritty of what we can do. But just in terms of working with the team and with continuous integration and delivery, these are the areas that we really want to watch and work on to be successful. So of course, we're going to need some sort of documentation of our bug and our feature, and then tracking that. GitHub and offers that. LASFDCDG offers that. We actually built our own on Force.com platform, and then also there's now the Agile Accelerator, which Salesforce has released. So there's a lot of solutions out there. Find the one that works the best for your team and stick with it. That will really help for you to track what's getting merged in, etc. Of course, you're going to need multiple sandboxes or dev orgs for everybody to work independently, because that's really where you want to work, and then merge all your data, all your changes into somewhere else, which I'll talk a little bit about that merge. We're going to need some source control to do the merging and handle all the conflicts, etc. We need some code review and code standards so that everybody's working the same way. I'm not really going to touch on that today, but definitely have a process in place so that you are reviewing the code and making sure that everything meets up with your standards for your company. And finally, you need some sort of continuous integration to bring everything, put it together. So I'll talk about a few of these areas, not all of them, but some of the tools of the trade that I use are sandboxes, of course. So in our setup, we have one developer sandbox for each admin and developer. So we're fortunate to have 36 sandboxes in our org, and we currently using about 20 of them. So those can be one for each. Actually, I have about 3 myself, but they could be for a project. If you're doing some demos, each admin and developer has their own, and that's where you're going to do your work. And really, you're the only one doing work in that org, or you may be collaborating with somebody else to work on the same feature. Then you're going to have a staging sandbox to receive that merge metadata, and that the CI tool is going to do the merge for you, but you need a separate sandbox that nobody has, or that nobody has access to make the changes to, except for maybe the admin in that sandbox, but then even that admin should not make changes. It's really critical that they don't make changes there, and the good thing if you have CI turned on is that most changes will get wiped out, so they'll learn really quick to make changes in that target sandbox. And then of course from there, then we'll merge on to the UAT sandbox and other staging sandboxes to get it all the way up to production. But I'll really focus on the first 2, but of course you'll want additional ones for more testing. I personally use Sublime Text and Maiden's Mate to get copies of my metadata down and make all my changes and save those. And then that way I've got a local copy that I can then check into Git. So there's a couple other solutions out there, Eclipse, but I'm still a fan of that. Also using GitHub, you could use pretty much any Git, Mercurial, whatever source control you want to use. I'm most familiar with Git, and I use Bitbucket and GitHub. In this case, I like GitHub because they have a little bit more robust support, it seems like, for pull requests, and a lot of the CI tools out there work better with GitHub and the pull requests. So if you're looking at those 2, that's what I've found personal use, I guess. I'm not a command line guy. I don't do a lot in it. So I like to use source tree as my Git client. It's easy for me to visualize the changes. I can make sure that I'm really checking in what I want to check in, and it's pretty fast for me. I know some people are diehard command line folks. I am not one of them, however. And then finally, we need Travis. We need a CI environment. In this case, I'll be demoing Travis. Travis is pretty cool for open source projects. It's free, and that's what I'll be showing you today. You can also have paid versions to use for private repos. But we'll be able to test our pull requests and deploy our changes, and behind the scenes, it's using AMP and the Force.com migration tool. All right, so finally, I'm done with the slides, so I'm going to move right over to one of the demos, which is going to be first before we get into Travis and pull request process. Just a little bit overview of what AMP is, and as well as the migration tool that's there. If I can find the right, there it is. All right, so command line, our favorite item that I just said I hate, but AMP is the one place that I do have to use command line. And basically, as Nathan mentioned earlier, that if you have brew, homebrew, then it's really easy to get Ant up and running. You just issue the command brew install Ant. I've already got it up and running, but it's going to tell me that I've already got it there. I can install Ant and any dependencies that I need to run it. So once I have Ant, then I can, actually before I start running with Ant, I want to show you guys one other thing. Okay, so here is my my folder on the local machine, which is tied in with Git. But a couple things in here that you'll notice is we've got a couple of build.properties. We've got build.properties, build.xml, a lib file, which is where I store my Ant Salesforce jar. This is what you'll download from the developer tools section in Salesforce setup. So you can download that. That updates every release. So you'll want to update it every once in a while to get the latest features. And then we have a source SRC directory that has all of my metadata in it. And so that's all coming from Sublime or Maven State. And let's see if I've got that here. Yeah, so here's again the same layout. I guess I could show it to you guys here, but you can see a couple things. Let's take a look at so build.properties is very little in it. It's just telling me where's my default server URL to send it to, and then I didn't up the max poll from the samples because some of our builds are really large, and so you might want to up how long, how many times it checks for results of the build. The build.xml is really where you're telling Ant what to do, and we do it with targets. So in this case, I'm going to be I'll demo the validate tests. So in this case, I've got a couple of environment variables that I'll set, be able to pass through. So I don't hard code username or password. And here I don't hard code the server URL. So you can see the server URL came from build properties, and username and password are going to come from the command, from when I actually type it in the command line. In this case, I'm passing run all tests equals true, so that's going to tell it to run all my tests. I'm really excited about the next release, the summer release, because we're going to be able to have a little bit finer control over what tests we can run when we do our builds. So we'll be able to tell it to we can give it a list of tests to run, or we can have it to run only the one local test. So we don't run namespace tests that are included in namespaces that came with managed packages. Right now, run all tests runs those tests that are in managed packages, and unfortunately, I have in our production org, we have some managed packages that test fail. So that won't stop your deploy, but it will stop any evaluation. Just a pain in the butt. So look for that in the summer release, and I'll be updating some of my stuff as that comes along. Let's see, so you can switch up the log type. Here's my deploy route, so I want to push the SRC folder. Of course, you can have them in different folders. And my max poll has been set, and then check only. This is that little flag that's going to tell when we do the deploy to not actually deploy it. So this is basically just testing, just running it, but not doing anything else with it. So once you have your build.xml and your build properties files, then you can switch over to command line and actually run a command. So here we go. You can see here's my command. It's just Ant, and then here I'm passing this dash lib. This is telling it where I want to grab. I want to use the Salesforce. This is the migration toolkit that I want to use. Passing in my username, my password, with a security token appended to it, and then finally at the very end is validate tests. So that's the target. That's the Ant target that I want to run. So I can just run that. And some fancy things will start to scroll across the screen. And it's basically deploying all that and checking on it. So let's switch over to here. Not logged in, but kind of prove to you that it's actually running, I can log into the org that I was testing it, go to deployment status, and I'll see right here, I'm on Mountain Time, so you can see that it's 7:26 p.m. Actually, I'm not on Mountain Time. It has an update. So anywho, this is the, here it is, and we can see the validate succeeded. Check the details. So that's me checking it, and then the cool thing that in the recent releases, we got the quick deploy, so we could deploy it from here now. We've done the check. So that's basically what I'm going to be doing with Travis, is making all of this automated every time we do a pull request. So let's do that. So I'm going to start from the beginning here. And I'm going to switch back to master. So here is here's source tree and my demo repo. And it looks like, let's do a poll just to make sure everything is up to date. And so I'm going to go ahead. Let's say I've got a new feature and request. So I'm going to create a new branch to start out that feature. And that way I can work on it. So, so now I have my branch, I can switch back over to Sublime and do my work. So maybe I've got a test here, and yeah, so maybe I need to improve my test somehow. I'm just going to make it actually fail. So I made my change. I can go back to source tree, and this is why I like source tree, because I get a visual picture of what is going on in the org. So here I can see, oh, there's a brand new test that I built. So I'm going to stage the entire thing. And I'm going to go ahead and push it up to GitHub. So now that I've done my work and pushed it to GitHub, I can come in here and now I can see that, hey, I've got a new branch. I'm going to go ahead and do comparing and open a pull request. This way I'm going to assign it. So in our flow, we actually will assign it to one of the other developers to take a look at it, do the code review that happens as part of this process. I'm just going to go create it. So I can take a look at what files have changed, yada, yada, right? So all is good. And boom, I don't know if you guys just saw that, but right here, you see that the Travis CI build is in progress. So Travis saw, well, actually GitHub sent a webhook out to Travis saying, hey, here's a new pull request. You might want to start building. So I'm going to go to Travis. We'll take a look at what's going on there. So here's my pull request, and it looks like it's in progress. So it's just starting up. And oh, did I not do something right? Live demo fail. Let's see. Now this will give me a good time to talk you through the Travis YML here. So basically, let me go back to, I can show you guys the error. So here in the error, you can see that it tells me that the command, basically, it exited, well, sorry, this one, excuse me. The target validate no test does not exist in the project team dev. So I made a mistake in all my changes, so I guess I overlooked, is that I have my target of validate no test, but I have not put that properly in here. So first I'm going to check the build. So I actually changed it because I wanted to validate with tests. I changed the name of the target to validate tests. That's good. So let me go check here. Yep, so now my Travis.yml, I just make a small change, validate tests. And while I'm in here, I'll walk you guys through what this file is. So this is the Travis.yml file. It has to be in your repo for Travis to know what to do. In this case, I've got just telling it that I want to spin up a Java environment, not that we're really building Java, but we're using AMP, which is available in the Java environment. So that's the one I want. I'm doing sudo false. That allows, it's because it's Docker. That's just required. In this case, I only want to build anything that is a pull request to master or direct commits to master. So I'm going to ignore all my other branches. And then I have a couple of global environments that I've also passed in. So these are secure tokens. So one of these is the username and one of these is the password. You can also, I actually did this before this was available. So now Travis, so now Travis actually gives you the ability to enter in credentials in here in the settings. So you can set environment variables directly into Travis as well now. Before you always had to put them right in the Travis in the YML file. But I've gone ahead and left them in there. And then here's my script that runs when something happens. And I have two of these. Basically, what this is some logic that tells me whether or not I have that it's a pull request that I'm building, or it's a merge, because that's the pull request to get merged in. So basically, if the pull request is false, then I want to do a deploy run no tests. If it is a pull request, the pull request is not false, meaning it is a pull request, then I want to just run the validate tests. So any questions on either from that? While I'm checking this stuff in.
I have one question, Daniel.
Yeah.
Do you happen to use Stash, or have you used Stash at all?
No, I haven't used Stash.
Got it.
So since I'm pushing to this branch already, my pull request is going to update, and Travis will see it and try to build it in too. So you can see here it goes, it's building again. Hopefully I'll be successful. Any other questions?
I was going to comment that we're using Bitbucket in our project, which is the cloud version of Stash, pretty much. So you probably best approach that would be use Atlassian's CI tool called Bamboo, but I bet you got to go up to Travis as well.
That's all. These are all Atlassian projects, right? Products.
Travis is GitHub only, I believe. The last I checked.
Got it. Right. And that's and Travis is not open source like Git, but it's got a free version and a paid version similar to GitHub, right?
Correct. Yeah.
We did have one question up here.
Okay. Yeah.
In the front. I think we can all hear you. Go ahead.
Okay.
Preeti?
Yeah.
Here, you know what? Sorry, it's a big room. Here we go.
So maybe I missed a part in there. So when the developer is done making their changes and they check their changes back into the checklist, and when you're doing your deployment, is it going directly to staging? Where do you set up which environment it's going into?
Yeah, so this is building to a staging environment. So basically what I've done is I have this, so this code is actually saving to a separate org. And then, so I have two orgs that I'm working with here, and I would log into them both. So I've got this org. Actually, I can't log into them both because they're on the same instance, but I'll have to switch browsers. But yeah, so this is the target org that I'm in here. So if I look at this right now, and I go say to develop classes, we're going to see only the Hello Dreamforce class, where we don't see the Hello Dreamforce test class. And and for some reason I have lost my meta.xml file in here, which is quite strange. So, anywho.
I'm sure you could write that real quick.
What's that?
I'm sure you could write that real quick.
Yeah. Yeah, anywho, I'm not sure why I sec. I can take care of this real quick.
So are you deploying to another dev environment or a staging environment?
Try that one more time.
Are you deploying into another dev environment or into staging?
They're both developer sandboxes.
So if a second developer were to pick up from where you left off, where would they check the code out of? From the second environment that you checked into?
They will never check it out from an environment. They'll always check it out from Git. So
Okay.
yeah,
Got it.
yes. So if I'm a developer, I'm going to clone the Git repo down into my local machine, and then you can use Maven's Make to attach to that. It's actually quite part of Maven's Make. So if you open a folder in Sublime that's not registered, that Maven's Make doesn't recognize as a Salesforce folder, then you can right click on that folder, you go to Maven's Make, and you can say create project. And then we can then point it to a new org. So you just change your login credentials in Maven's Make to point to, so in here I can hit project, right? And then on my project details, I can just key in username and password. So in this case, you can see it's going to my .daniel org, and it could be whatever library you need, or sorry, whatever instance you need.
Can you use the same password as I do? ...
I know, I know.
A note about, Daniel had mentioned that he uses SourceTree. I use SourceTree. I don't pay for SourceTree, but I'm very glad that the company does, because it is very visual. So a note about also the refreshing from the org. Usually, I don't build from source control. Source control is what Salesforce spits out, and I save it, right? But when you're contributing to the limited code that's part of that app or that build, if you refresh a whole object, you'll notice like there's all these action overrides where the action overrides none. So you could just omit that and it's going to build because that's the default, right? You can't delete a field from an object just by removing it from your XML and saving the XML to the server, because it doesn't delete that way, right? It just doesn't change things. And so you'll only want to commit code that you really want to commit, right? So let's say you check out the code, but then you're in an environment like Eclipse or Maven's Make where you're actually refreshing from the server. And it's not like you can limit what you get from the server beyond like which object file do I want, which fields, right? There's a way to break it down in profiles and objects that have sub metadata types. But you should only be checking in, whether that be through git add interactive, like -i, or in SourceTree they have, you can go in and select individual lines. Could you show them that real quick, Daniel? Where, yeah, like, you don't want all these action overrides, right? If it's just going to be default, because if it's going to override something, yeah, you want to include the new page goes to a Visualforce page. But other than that, it's just more lines to read in your source control, and it's more stuff to maintain, more stuff that could go wrong, right?
Yeah, and a lot of those change with versions too, I've noticed. So, like, especially these action overrides, if you look at, for example, with this summer release, we had some stuff break because of summer, just because something was different. I think it was this map highlight action, no longer.
Has anybody got an Eclipse error on the Flexi page? Eclipse error on your Flexi page? No, not available. Anybody had a social post layout problem? No, we got a lucky crowd here. They haven't had these problems. Yeah, those are good ways to only put what you want into source control there, right? Because it's only sticking. And Dan, you there?
Oh, I think I'm back.
You're back.
It was odd. All right, let's see. Am I still sharing my screen?
No, I think you need to restart.
I'm not sharing my screen anymore, am I?
Not yet. No, can you start?
All right.
Start up here.
Where you go? That's technology.
It was only on the Salesforce platform. And perfect. I'm seeing. Oh, I'm trying to click stuff on your Skype. Okay, you're good.
Excellent. Okay. All right, let's see how my build's doing. Apparently, I am having a bad day with the build. What have I done? Oh, good. Okay. This is what I wanted to happen finally. All right. So if you guys remember way back when I started editing my test class, I threw something in there. So I want this build to fail. And so now I've got everything cleaned up in terms of including all of the variable files, et cetera, that I needed. And my test still failed because my test failed. My build failed because my test failed. So here you can see that insertion failed, and it tells me what my stack trade, where it happened. So now as a developer, I can go, oh man, I'm glad I didn't merge that in because I messed up something. And we can then go even check that out over here in GitHub, and we're going to see all my. I've been doing a bad job here because every single time I put it committed, I have messed something up. So so you get that view of what's happening with Travis, and it talks back to GitHub and tells you what's going on. So it's going to let me merge it, but it's telling you probably don't want to do that. And it's right, I don't want to. So I'm going to go ahead and just go back and fix the little mess that I made. So if I'm not in the right place. So I'm going to go back over here, go back to my test, and I'm just going to take out this little assertion that I put in to cause everything to blow up. So here now we're going to see that I took that line out, stage it. And one more time, let's see how the build goes. So you can see this is a pretty quick process. Sometimes it feels a little slow when I'm doing it as part of a live demo, but I mean, the build tool is fast. It'll spin up. It's going to spin up basically scraping a Docker instance every time, and but it turns it up pretty fast and goes with it. So while this is building, a couple, there's a lot of tools out there, and I believe Kevin's going to show using Snap CI, which is actually what I was using, or sorry, not Snap, showing Drone.io, excuse me. And then I also use Snap CI, which is another solution. And they're very similar. You're going to set up your build environment the same, in terms of you're going to have the same stuff, but really the only difference is kind of figuring out the nuances of the command that you want it to run. They all have kind of different environment variables that you have to worry about and build with. So great, looks like my build passed. We can just go back over here to GitHub. And it's now telling me that the build is all good. So that makes me happy. So now, I can be assured that when I do this merge, I'm not going to break anything. And I'll go ahead and merge it. So when I merge, let's go back over here too. So I've go ahead and started merge. We're going to go to org. We're going to check out the deployment status. And we're going to see, hey, look, I've got this last validate was successful. We can see that. It's a couple of errors that I had in it. And we should see one come in, start up here. Go over here. So it hasn't quite started yet. So this will, once this starts, then we'll actually see the deployment status show up here as well. And what that's mean. Go back over here and look at Travis.yml. So it's going to now be running the deploy run no test. So in this case, I'm just skipping the test run because I already know that it passed my validation. I could have it set to run the test again. That would all just be based on your target that you could set in here. So I'm just doing the deploy run no test. So when all this is false, but I can easily set that to true. I can and use it for target like deploy run all test. There we go. Looks like it's funny once it gets going, it's done. And there we go. So my deploy is now succeeded. So if I go just triple check everything, I should now see a test class that we just got created. So that's part of the process of doing a build in Travis, linking all that up, and merging into your environment. So from here, then I am still doing annual deploys onto production. So this is kind of just to merge everything in. I still wouldn't know exactly what's happening, but I do still use AMP to do my deploys, so I'm moving it on to other sandboxes. So for us, in our we have this staging environment, which would be like this. Then we have one that we use as our UAT environment. So we'll go from staging to UAT, and then once we're in UAT, we'll have the users test it out, make sure that's a full sandbox, so they can test it with data and make sure everything looks good. And then we'll do another manual deploy over to production. But the nice thing is that I can build my deployment package once, and my deployment package will look just like the, it'll look just like this with the source package.xml file describing everything that's in there. And then if we can just use AMP to repeat our deploy over and over again, and all I have to do is just change my username to point to a new location. So I can repeat this deploy multiple times and be comfortable that it's going to be the exact same deploy every time. So let's see. Let me wrap it up by switching back over to the slides. See if I have anything else to talk about with it. So we did the Travis demo. So a couple gotchas with this. One is that we can't automate destructive changes through this process. There's a number of ways to do it. One is, and I bet Nathan can tell you some headaches about it, is you can actually clean your targeting work. There is an AMP, which is something that I think Financial Forces built, that you can do a clean, and you can clean every single bit of metadata out of your org. So it's back to kind of that new car smell, but it is pretty difficult to get it to work all the time. So right now we do our manual changes, our destructive changes manually, and go with that. So let's see, not all your changes can be pushed through metadata. So they're getting better at this, but every once in a while I find something that just doesn't work, or there's a bug in the metadata API. I've got a few things that I have actually one of the developers on the metadata API lives here in Salt Lake, so I take him out to lunch every once in a while and berate him about bugs that I found. It's quite useful. So like there's a couple, especially knowledge articles, there's a few oddities and various things like that. So every once in a while something happens. And then API version changes. You want to make sure everybody on your team is using the same API version. There can be changes in the metadata that's going to really be impactful. One good example that we ran into were dependent pick lists. So I can't remember what release it happened at, but one release they moved how that was all described, and we had selected one person that was using a version of Maven's, again, the wrong API version of Maven's Mate. And it just caused a ton of issues because every time you try to check something in, it just, like you look in source tree, there's just this huge thing, massive changes. It's like, I didn't touch any of this, I don't understand what's going on. So, really watch the changes to make sure everybody's on the same version.
Did you run into that with lookup filters at all?
Say it again?
Remember how to replace for lookup filters on an object change from the source to the target?
Yeah, actually, that might be the one. It wasn't Nicholas. It was lookup filters. That's right. It was a mess. Yeah, they moved it from one object to the other object, and it was a mess. Yeah. So this is kind of the process right here, right? So you're going to log your issue. You're going to create your branch. You're going to develop, commit, and create pull requests. Travis is going to validate it. Then you're going to review and version of GitHub, and then Travis will do the building for you. So that's kind of what we did here in this process. So then kind of the benefits there is, you know, with Git, you get all benefits of tracking things, being able to roll back. There are feedback builders. No developers are overwriting code since everybody's working in their own orgs. You can't save over each other. If you do have merge conflicts, you're going to know about those and be able to fix them before you merge happens. Here's a couple of resources, and you can follow them. But this last one is a good intro to how to get started using maintenance and Git, and walk you through that. The other two are blatant plugs on my blog. And that's it. So there's my Twitter handle again, if you want to reach out to me. And my blog is verticalcoder.com, which badly needs some more posts. So hopefully I'll be working on some content soon.
Daniel. And how is the weather in Salt Lake City?
It is rainy, and we had a huge rainstorm and thunderstorm here, but not so deserty right now, which is all right.
Nice. It's it's been it's cloudy. It's like 70. It's cold. It's cold.
Great. Well, I'm happy to answer if you guys have any questions now, or reach out to me.
Any questions from the audience right now? Some points I was going to hit on. We touched on the interactive adding, and Stash, I guess, is just a web UI product of Atlassian that helps resolve pull requests. What do you use to resolve pull requests? Is that inside a source tree, or does that happen in Bitbucket? Oh, I lost okay. That's all right. Let's see. So to respond to the undeployed, I actually remember at my position previous to my current one and every one before that, having an undeployed was a big problem. But that was also because my last position was my first position where we built from Git instead of Git as backup, right? Or Git to maybe back up stuff that two developers need to do. Oh, Daniel's back on. We were going to ask, how do you resolve pull requests? I know Stash is like a web UI where you can visually see pull request differences. Is there something inside a source tree that does that, or what do you?
No, that's done in GitHub. So actually, I showed that was the. Let's see if I can show the screen in here. But yeah, the pull request is done in. So you create the pull request in GitHub, and then you can review the changes in GitHub as well. And let's see if I can switch over to that.
And you know what? It'll be the same for a historical one, pretty much, right?
Yeah.
So I know that there's at least one. I mean, you can look up any pull request on GitHub, but I know that there's one on Salesforce that Matt Bingham contributed for. I think it was execute anonymous in Ant. You ever find yourself executing anonymous from Ant?
That is definitely one of the areas that I would like to explore more.
Yeah, before I was starting to comment on the undeployed. My position previous to Financial Force was my first ISV position where we were actually building from Git, and so there were a lot of conflicts with getting other people's stuff out of your org so that it doesn't, like for instance, I think we renamed it was like a record type, but it had a selector because we were using patterns. We were using enterprise patterns with Apex, and there was this darn record type name that disappeared for a month or two, and I was wanting Ant undeployed more than I knew. But it's like a slinky. You need to push it sometimes. Sometimes you have layouts. What was it on case? I think if you have solutions related list on case, our undeploy wasn't able to do something because it was on case layout. But then you go in and you remove the case layout like from your phone and it works. So there's some things that just need some slinky pushing. Like some of those, have you ever had a failed test from a managed package that you were able to get to work because you assigned a default lead process, which you don't use at all? Or something similar, Daniel?
You know, if we have managed packages, we just ignore those tests right now.
Yeah, I forget. It hasn't always not affected your coverage, right? If managed tests fail.
I'm not sure. Lately, we haven't had any issues with it because I know we've got tests failing already.
Right. And this is, so for instance, if anybody here is of the ISV interest where you want to make an app and sell it on the App Exchange, this is a pain point for customers of apps on the Salesforce platform is they got my test failures. You know, even if the product worked great, as a developer, I'm not going to be a champion for the app if, oh, that's the app that we have installed that always fails, right? So these are some reasons that you can have. And one of the reasons I was getting an execute anonymous AMP target is so that from your code base, not what you package and release, but you know, so you've got your tests covered, you've got line coverage for Salesforce's needs, but as far as system tests or integration tests, what we think of as unit tests or test methods in Salesforce, because that's the term, but a unit test is really supposed to check like a small piece of functionality. You really aren't meant to do your bulk like 10 to 100,000 record tests on the platform. You can do those from your source control on your own systems in build systems like this. So for instance, we'll have a build org where this is a sandbox, or if you're an ISV, it's just a developer org that specifically, nobody really logs in, right? They just get built to from the command line. And so you'll undeploy everything and then build stuff out. And then what you can do is you can run a system test. So instead of inside of a test environment, you're actually inserting 1 million records. And so they're actually there. And then you can run system tests instead of integration, instead of unit tests. It's not a unit test. You're running into DML limits on your data setup. Yeah, you're doing more than a unit test, right? You want to do some use case that my invoice process is going to work with 1 million line items, right? Or with a large transaction size. And that's some of the things that a continuous integration platform like Travis and running things from ANT, from your source control can do. It's not going to do everything that you package and ship to a customer, right? It's not going to be in that App Exchange package. This is everything, including the tools, like the unzip, unminified JavaScript that you work with, and it can zip that into a static resource on an ANT build instead of only committing the static resource file. And then how do you open that? How do you see the diff in a tool like SourceTree? So it helps to kind of have those tools and directories in your source control as you're building, especially as you're building a ISV product, but also on enterprise teams, right? I mean, if people are making changes to JavaScript files inside of your zip for jQuery UI, you're going to want to see that diff instead of binary here, binary new, right? Like, what does that tell you on a code review? Okay, are there any more? You have any more comments, Daniel?
No, and so obviously this repo is linked from the from your GitHub repo, so you can go in here and you can fork it and play around with it. But the nice thing about it, you can get the structure, you can get a Travis.yml file, get the idea of what you need for the bare bones build, and then you can build off of that from there. All the other kind of cool things in your review, you can see right here, I've got this links right back to Travis, so you can always tell whether that builds go in or not. But,
Yeah, I just need a deploy to Salesforce button.
yeah, that's right. I don't have it on this one.
Cool. Well, thanks so much, Daniel.
Thank you.
All right. And let's see, before we have Kevin Foreman, aka Code Fryer, come up with kind of I guess we worked it out. I tried to make it so that Alex, who's in Pennsylvania, and Daniel, who's in Utah, went before Kevin, who happens to be in Pacific time now. So it happened to go, earliest clock time, but also it tends to progress kind of in scale. Continuous deliveries is kind of a part of the umbrella that Daniel also talked about, it's kind of a different tool. But Kevin's going to be talking about something a little more higher up on the umbrella where you've got all these unit tests. And maybe you have a little more bulk under your artifacts of what you want to build with drone.io, which I have not very much idea about, but Kevin's going to take you through all of that. Let's see. I think we're going to plow right ahead. Kevin, are you there? Let's see. What do I do here?
I am here.
Perfect. And just to let everybody know, he is in the Portland airport. Is that right?
Yes.
Nice. So.
Portland airport and Foodport, when people are watching my laptop screen, there's no moving faces on my laptop screen.
Well, you should send them the Google Plus link.
There we go.
Perfect. So go ahead and try to share your screen, and we'll get that up. And let's see. Actually, you know what? We can make a couple of announcements. So I want to thank WeWork for hosting. WeWork is a platform for innovation. It's a national co-working space, international co-working space with resources where community. This is my first run at this, but thank you for hosting us. And if you're interested in a membership at WeWork, please look them up, Google them. Talk to George afterwards. Yeah.
So give me like a month and a half. Anyway, I'm George. I'm a WeWork member. I've been here for like a year and a half or of it. And this building's got 3 floors. This is the common space area. I'm opening up an office in Santa Monica in 2 months in July, and coming to downtown as well. There's about 30 offices worldwide that WeWork has, and you can work out of all of them. So, and if you want to get a tour, I can show you guys around. Or the thing where you can do like 1 month because you come here for an event. But if you want to get like a 1 month membership for no cost, to do that, you just have to pay a deposit of like $500. Because it's like you can't just come here like on a day or weekly basis. It's like a month in advance. So a lot of people here are entrepreneurs, have their own companies. There's about 600 people in this building, and about 20,000 members worldwide. We have our own newsletter, mobile apps. We communicate, do business with each other, stuff like that. So it's really a lot of fun.
July.
And in July, we'll be up to Santa Monica. Thanks a lot for coming. Oh yeah, we're here. Monday through Friday.
On the beer note, there are, if you haven't noticed, there are 2 taps. The one in the ice bucket is the one I brought, so please use this up so that I don't have to tote it. There are also, we finally got the keg pouring a little better. I just poured this. There's over 50% liquid, so we're on the up. Please do not pump. I learned today after a YouTube video that you should not pump unless the tap is open and the beer is flowing. And think of it like a coffee pump press, right? Coffee siphon. You should have the tap open and then pump, but you shouldn't need to pump for the rest of the night. FYI. We thank WeWork. And also, please look into GitHub has been mentioned tonight. GitHub is free for open source, but also they have GitHub private, which is cloud hosted, as well as you can have on-premises GitHub private. And you say, why would you do that instead of have just Git? Well, what are you going to put it on? terminal, right? GitHub has a web API, which would be accessible if you do host it privately even, which you could make web call outs from Salesforce to GitHub API and do commits. I've looked into this. I don't have enough time to learn that stuff, but Kevin, you're busy. You're doing something Thursday morning, right?
I am. 10 days of Apex testing.
Nice. Well, then, without further ado, let's let Code Fryer take it away.
Good evening, everyone. Okay, it's quite proud to get it. So Daniel did a really good job of explaining the process of CI. So I'm going to focus a little bit more on just an alternative tool for CI. I use Drone.io for CI primarily because it's polyglot and you can use test multiple languages at the same time. I think somebody's trying to say something. They get disconnected.
We can hear you.
Oh, okay, good. So I'm Kevin Foreman. I'm Code Fryer. I'm the principal architect at EL Consulting. Enough about me. Drone.io. I want to talk a little bit about it. I'm going to share a rather opinionated way of using Drone.io to test JavaScript and Apex code at the same time. Specifically, in my use case, I do a lot of Angular.js on Force.com. And I will be able to test for my JavaScript controllers and Angular, as well as Apex code on Salesforce with this system. So we're going to talk about the players. We're going to show the build file and the current file that backs it. And we'll walk through a build on Drone.io. I'm going to skip that continuous integration introduction because Daniel did such a great job. This is the opinionated stack that I talked about, the one I use. I run my test builds with runs. So there's a task runner for JavaScript. I build them on Drone.io. I test my JavaScript with Jasmine. I generate code coverage reporting and I'm able to do things like fail build if it falls below 75% JavaScript code coverage as well. And then I also use the deployment tool to test and deploy code to various Salesforce codes.
Hey, Kevin.
Yes.
While we're on this screen, is there a way for you to let anybody know? I know things like AMP are kind of, there's really no option on Salesforce, but just if there's any examples of analogies, like for instance, Drone.io, competitors or this and that.
Yeah, so if you think of Grunt, it's a task runner. It's very much like Make or Rake in the Ruby world. It has analogies to AMP, but it's not quite the same thing. The idea is that you're going to write some code, lightweight code that is going to execute a certain number of tasks in order, and then you're going to be able to reuse those tasks, not only in that run file, but also across portions of the build. Drone.io is the actual continuous integration platform. I'll get more into that here in a couple slides. We are lucky in the Salesforce world that our test harness, like testing utilities, are baked into the platform. So we have a search methods, we have the ability to run test process just baked into the platform. There's no such thing baked inside JavaScript. So Jasmine is a behavioral-driven development, or BDD, testing tool for JavaScript. It provides the, not a service, but expectations. So in behavior-driven development, we write expectations. I expect this method to return X, or this method is returned by B equal to Y. So they're very similar to assertions, and you write your Jasmine tests are unit tests in the JavaScript world with just a slightly different set of naming conventions and sort of the theory behind tests. Istanbul is a harder one to give an analogy to. Istanbul is just a formatter for the results of Jasmine. All it's going to do is pretty. If you look in the bottom right-hand corner of the slide, that yellow bar is what it outputs. It outputs HTML files from here. While in production, I drop those HTML files into a static resource and deploy it to my board so I can see the code covered in JavaScript there. And like I said, Yank is very widely used in the Salesforce world. One of the other things that's great about Grunt as a tool is that there are a lot of tools, a lot of plugins available for it. So we have CSS-Min, Grunt Copy, Jasmine is a Grunt plugin, and perhaps most importantly, there's an ant-SFDC deployment tool that exposes methods for deploying to Salesforce and running unit tests from JavaScript from Grunt. So together with these plugins, we're able to do unified CSS for our JavaScript applications and our custom CSS for Visual Force pages. We're able to copy things around the file system to move a unified CSS file into the proper directory for a custom set, a custom. I keep wanting to say custom setting. I'm sorry. Phasing on words here today, and resource bundles amazing. And we can also test our code there and drop that into our JavaScript code. We can drop that into the same resource bundle, all of which is deployed with the specific test files. Run.io is a brainchild of a couple of ex-Googlers who left to set up a Docker-based continuous integration service application. They've made it open source, so if you want to, when you have your own hardware, you can install it on a local machine and run it. But it works great on their hosting service. It's free for open source apps. You get a lowest $10 a month, so it's very affordable. One of its best features is the ability to support multiple languages in a single test run. As far as I know, it's the only one that allows you to do that without spawning multiple sort of steps within the build. So, you can have a multi-step build in Google or the Java and used to be Hudson. But this one allows you
Jenkins.
Jenkins, yes. This one allows you to run them basically at the same time. And it's got some great integrations with GitHub and GitHub.
So
Like I said,
meaning that you could test that one test case is that the Apex part of this works with the Visual Force part of this, works with the JavaScript part of this, and else build fails, right? Or whole test case fails.
Correct. You can, I call those more integration tests rather than unit tests, and I build them on a set of process and unit tests. But what I mean by that is I can run my AngularJS Jasmine tests and my Apex tests in the same time. And Jasmine is like I said, the unit test framework for JavaScript. It's interesting that it uses Phantom.js, which is a headless Chrome browser. So it's excellent for doing CI tools, but you can also point it to run, you can tell Jasmine to run it in any browser or multiple browsers. So if, for instance, you prefer supports IE and Firefox but not Chrome, you can tell Jasmine to create the test files, build the tests themselves, and then open them in Firefox and IE10 on your local instance if you have set it up that way. So there's a lot of power in there, and you can also make sure that your JavaScript is going to function on all browsers in the same customer. Any one of those individual browsers failing will cause the build to fail. Like I said, assemble is just makes the reports look pretty, produces HTML files from the test results. And the other thing it does is it allows you to set up what I call meta tests. These are tests for minimum code coverage, or minimum branch executions covered, percentage of lines, etc. And you can create those meta tests to also fit. So if you have, 74% JavaScript code coverage, you've got a threshold of 75. It will fit in all the test files. And the other thing that's nice about it is it outputs alpha files, which are the you can do 3 alpha files and sort of the, I don't know what I call it the standard, but it's the most common format for test coverage. And that's like, Ant is the sort of the Java-based task runner. It's a language written in XML, and if that strikes you as a great idea, some property and flow, I'll tell you. But the Salesforce has provided the integration toolkit, and that's what we use with others to move code around in Salesforce to run tests. So putting it all together, let's look at the code here. Code and got this grunt file. Can you all see this okay? The grunt file is built into various tasks. In this case, I got a task in Jasmine, and I've got various configurations here. In this case, I'm going to load the vendor jQuery and jQuery Jasmine files. And then I've got a list of spec file, the tests themselves, the specification tests. So I'll run these 2 tests, and they will kick off. And the rest of this is a lot of boilerplate. But what happens is it's going to run these tests for me and output the results to the screen. It's going to run that in the heads of JS browser because I run this on drone.io. I don't have a monitor and a whole setup for actually using 10 or whatever. So this is going to run just headlessly, and it's going to output the coverage to some file, and it's going to set some thresholds. I have to have 30% line coverage. I have to have 20% of all statements covered, 10% of all branches, 5% of all functions. And this is set as low as it is because if you incorporate something like jQuery and then try to test it, you'll find that there aren't a lot of tests for it sometimes. So you can set these however you want, but that's how it's set up. And then I've got a deploy task set up down here. And I've got several of them actually. I'm going to deploy version 29 of the API. And I'm going to set up the environment and use that. I'm going to set up using the environment tells it to look at the environment with a variable space for the username and password. And I've also set up a test deploy and a production deploy. And all I'm doing is setting a different server URL. But I also am setting up to deploy my Angular application. If I chose to do that. And that's the basis of the grunt file. It's basically a list of tasks that are going to run. And the tasks that are run are specified at the bottom. So if I scroll down here all the way, you can see the default task is sort of Jasmine. So if I switch over to a terminal, I'm in that directory, and I run grunt, it will run all of my tests very quickly for Jasmine. And the Jasmine test, I like this, you can see it a little bit better. They will all run headlessly right there in my terminal. So very quick, very handy to have. And then because the grunt file says to run Jasmine by default, if I just say run grunt in my build script, run those tests, any sort of non-success will result in throwing a console error, which will halt the build, and it will stop doing the deployment to Salesforce. So that's the grunt file. You can go as complicated as you want or as simple as you want on the grunt file. This is a moderate and complex one, but that goes there pretty easily. The flip side of that is the drone.io configuration. And the drone.io configuration looks like this. You can set up some environment variables, including the username and password by setting set pass and set user. And then you have what is essentially a shell script, you can type out and set up how to log it. So this one is fairly simple. We're going to source the profile, which is standard shell scripting type thing. I'm going to install my npm modules that I need for testing the JavaScript test application. This is one of the gotchas with Drone.io because it's Docker based. Every time you run a build, you get a brand new, fresh, clean Docker image that it runs in, and you don't have any control of that Docker image. So you have to always install any dependencies you're looking for before you run them. The flip side of that is if you update a package version of an Angular plugin, something like that, and that goes into your package.json file, this will automatically pick it up and already have dependencies for testing purposes. So in this case, I'm going to install Grunt because I need that before I can do anything else. And then I'm going to install all the rest of my dependencies from my package.json. To run the actual test, I actually just run Jasmine, runs the test there in the console, and if I then run grunt automated deploy, it will actually deploy Salesforce as well. What that looks like when the tests run is something a bit like this, below this, and you get the build script here in the console itself. So you can see it installing various plugins, CLI, load grunt tasks, etc. All these different plugins, and this actually takes longer than it does to run the actual build usually. But we finally get down here to running the grunt Jasmine, and it kicks off and it's running all the tests here in JavaScript. And if we get all the way down to the end, you'll see that there were 66 specifications run in just under a second, no failure. So we're good there. And it's also been running this automated deploy task here. And as part of that, it's going to refresh my resource bundles and run compression, zip it up, and build that out for me. So that part all works. And now it's to show logging into the Salesforce org with my credentials and starting the deploy. Right now, I have too low code coverage. It's only 46%. My build will always fail. But this is a great way to track what is, how you're doing with code coverage. I set this up to run every hour on the hour for most of the projects. And so every hour, 10, 50% of the hour, I get an email saying, build passed or failed, and what my current code coverage is. Because this failed, it can stop execution. But yeah, that's what a build looks like. So in this build, we've run JavaScript tests, and we've run Apex tests. And that's a fairly standard use case for the projects I do, but I've also had some of these where I ran JavaScript in Ruby and Apex tests, because I had a mission critical Heroku service written in Ruby that I had to test as well. And that worked out nicely too. I could even push from here to Heroku when the build passed. Anybody have any questions?
It doesn't look like we have any audience questions. I got a question. I was looking up. Nice. Get commit. Checking to see if you're paying attention. You know, it actually got pretty sunny today, right? It was cloudy in the morning. It got sunny by noon. It was great.
Yeah, sorry, right.
So we're gonna get some water. Daniel, if you want to send any water our way, we would appreciate the extras. It's not that far. It's probably less distance from here to Utah than it is to Northern California.
But it's still sunny.
It's still sunny. Is that me? I'm wondering, let's see, So Jasmine is the JavaScript testing framework that you were using. That's different than a product like Selenium, which is browser automation. And if so, is there something that you're using that's kind of like a browser automator rather than a JavaScript unit testing framework like QUnit, or is PhantomJS a testing framework? I don't know. What are your thoughts?
So
on that?
PhantomJS is a plugin and an executable that is not unlike Node. It's based on the JavaScript V8 engine and its own browser, but PhantomJS is designed to be headless. So it's think of Node but with a DOM tree. So you can create and test code in a browser-like environment without actually having to display it on a screen somewhere. It's similar in idea, but not in execution to something like Selenium. But you can also use Jasmine as a Selenium plugin. So if you wanted to write a Selenium test, you could run those from the command line with Drone.io using the PhantomJS Selenium driver.
For Grunt, I'm wondering, so in my tutorial folder on the GitHub repo, I've got like a very basic, I even went back to Make because, this isn't something new that Salesforce is doing. They're using old-ish tools like Ant, that other people have used for years. I've got like a make file, an Ant build XML, trying to work on an ID example. Do you have a basic Grunt Hello World or Jasmine Hello World, or is it kind of like a Salesforce full-fledged sample?
So in that repo that I built this from, the DF14 example repo, you can click on GitHub and you'll find that the tests that it runs are actually the default Jasmine tests from Jasmine's way of demonstrating how to write Jasmine tests. So it totally cheated in that aspect. There's not a real test in the code I wrote there. It's all demonstration tests. But the Apex stuff is there, is real. You can watch it, see the code.
Got it. Let's see. All right, I think that's all the questions in the audience.
Yeah, I can add on a little bit to the question about the browser testing. It depends on the platform that whatever CI, whatever build tool you're using. They all have something slightly different available. For example, Travis ties in with, I was just looking at it, what do they tie in with? So you can link over to Sauce Labs and run your tests there. SnapCI it has Phantom, JS, Google Chrome Driver, or Firefox available as browsers to test, but it's all headless. So it's kind of, I think every build tool has something a little bit different, but you can look into them and see what you can find.
And so, Kevin, what is your, version control setup? Is there a wrapper kind of like source tree that you use? What do you use as far as kind of the version control choice and all through like
I used the source tree, and then I was invited to beta test software called Tower 2. I find Tower 2 to be much more powerful and elegant and easy to use. It is, however, not perfect. So this is what I use with my team for doing Git and branching and merging. Our branching and merging strategy is Git flow. So if you've never heard about Git flow, it's a very intelligent way of doing branching and merging by convention. And we enable all of the work. So it's probably like it goes with Git flow, and we use Tower as a client. GitHub is a repository record.
Do you have a list of remote, like I know, for instance, when you're on a flow like GitFlow, has anybody been introduced to GitFlow where you don't develop on master, you develop on develop, and actually you just develop on feature / something and merge into develop? Okay, so we got somebody who's heard of GitFlow, but it looks like nobody's really been indoctrinated with it. Do you have a list of like remote branches? What'll happen is basically you'll see branches, master, develop, and then a whole bunch of feature / story number, hyphen something, right, short description.
I can actually demonstrate what it does by enabling it here. So when you enable GitFlow, you set up your conventions. In this case, the production branch is going to be master. We're going to develop on the develop branch. And then we've got a feature prefix, a object prefix, and a release prefix. And I use single V for the version type prefix. So when you configure this, it'll automatically branch and give you a develop branch. And it'll let you can, once you've done that, you also have start feature, start hotfix, or start release. And you can build out your sort of development tree of branches and merges by doing features within a release or hotfixes on the bug fix branch.
And is that V like a release?
The V is for if you do a version tag. So if you do you tag a certain point in master as a version, it'll tag that commit as version 1 or whatever it may be.
And just FYI, I know that for Financial Force, we use tags to, so for instance, you've got a whole bunch of stories. Let's say you've got 5 stories that are going to go into the release 14 to replace V13, basically, right? So we're going towards V14. We've got 5 features, 2 defects, right? When those are code complete, QA, they get merged into develop. And then we do kind of like a once over, make sure that 5 plus 2 things that got merged into develop that were working individually, work as a whole, right? And then we can move from, you know, release Salesforce app V13 to release Salesforce app V14. You can't do something, right? You don't get to start from scratch, especially when you build for a managed package. And then whatever gets released, it gets pushed to master. So that master is always going to have your last released product, but then you tag that commit, because then when V15 comes out, master's not going to point at that code anymore. You tag your release with V13 or 14, right? And then that way, that commit that came out on master is going to be an easy way to figure out, oh, that was version POC V1, right? And whatever. It doesn't need to be, it doesn't have the rules like a managed package does with, oh, that needs to be an integer. It's just a label. Is that right, Kevin? You can just make it a label?
Yeah, pretty much.
Okay. All right. Sounds good. How long till your flight?
We'll start boarding in about 5 minutes.
Okay, I think that's the perfect timing then.
Good luck, Kevin.
Thank you.
All right.
All right, and Kurt Fryer is going to get on the plane. Let's see, so while we have them online, are there any last questions for our 2 remaining speakers, Alex and Daniel? We got one in the back here. Hold on, leaving the microphone.
Yes, appreciate your time. Just looking at the GitHub, have any of you all worked with the mobile pack knockout JS?
I haven't worked with it, but I've heard good things about it. Are you using it on the Salesforce platform?
Right at that point of making that decision.
Are there any, and just to let the rest of the audience know, is Knockout.js, I actually don't know, is Knockout.js an analog to Angular.js, or what would that be familiar to? For? Dan, are you familiar with Knockout?
Yeah, I haven't really used it either. No, I think you're right though in that it's an alternative to Angular or one of those. There's so many different libraries out there these days.
I would just, I mean, kind of like any other JavaScript framework, like Angular, EXT, Sentra. I know that Financial Force in the past has done Flex for, so Financial Force made the accounting app, then they've also bought 3 apps in the last 3 years. And so Flex, yeah, we used to use Flex, which we're deprecating, but I know that EXT Sentra does not operate well in the Apple iPhone Salesforce One app because it's basically an iframe wrapper around the mobile site. Like Safari on iPhone, I think won't run into the problem with EXT Sentra if it's meant to be mobile friendly in the first place, with the Salesforce One native app on iPhone because of something like this. So that would be the functionality you'd want to check with Knockout. That's the thing, is if you're going to use Knockout.js to make a JavaScript app for a desktop salesperson for like the sales or the service console in Salesforce, and they're going to be on a desktop, they don't have their login at home because it's all single sign-on from Windows, you don't need to worry about that. But if you're going to be 80% field sales reps that need an iPad or an iPhone, browser to access it, and something's breaking because of that iframe, that's something that you'll check. But I'm sure if somebody's complaining about it loud enough, you'll be able to find it. So also, what time is it? The screw time check. It's about 8:38. I think if there's no more questions, we've got, so to our speakers, please feel free to update or make pull requests for the README so that we can get any sort of links to, either the slide decks for your talk or additional resources that you find helpful. And I will be making updates to the Git Ant IB tutorial. I'm also going to add a simple grunt file there because I don't know how to use grunt, and that's something that's important to learn how to okay, let's say I have a hello world Salesforce page, and when I click this, the on-click event is supposed to alert something, right? Okay, I asserted that happens. I'm going to put that up there. There's nothing really with an assert, but I give you an example of an Ant build file that uses some of just Ant's echoing, and then it also uses Ant as I'm compiling code and running it. So there's some hello world examples for Make and for Ant up there. And if I don't think we have any Salesforce only people. Anybody don't know any programming language besides Salesforce? I've learned a few, but Java and C were not my first languages, so I put those there so that it could be simple for people who come from a Salesforce only world, but also if you come from that background, it'll introduce you well to what we're using them in Salesforce for. And I think that's it. Oh, we got one more.
Do you think it'd be useful to do like a hands-on, kind of apply what we're doing tonight, using the using the Doug force? We can all just kind of get that.
Yes.
In regards to that, workshop where we could spend a little more time within a short time, because it's sometimes more interesting to focus and then not have a distraction around this.
So right now what I can do is I'm going to kind of let our speakers off the hook so that they can get to their evenings. But also we can spend some time now. I've got some basic build tools set up for Doug Force, which is a developer user group force app that I've got on GitHub. But also we can go over some of the examples on the repositories that our speakers have linked to, just so that we can get something built. I mean, yeah, I see laptop out. I see 2 laptops out. So anybody that wants to go through that now, we should have about 20 minutes before doors kind of start closing. But if you want to sit through this and spend more time with the laptop open, I'd suggest coming to Thursday's event. We have something Thursday at 6 p.m. over on Wilshire near San Vicente, Custom Solutions. So Thursday we're not going to do a lot of developing, but we're going to do, okay, let's build this, right? And we're going to do some non-command line stuff, like change sets, but we're also going to cover some of the topics that we spent tonight at a basic level with not a lot of it, like one JavaScript file, one Visualforce page, right? So thank you, Daniel and Alex. Thank you, Alex. It's almost midnight there, right, Alex?
Yeah.
Nice. Well, I hope you drink some tea before bed, and we'll see you soon.
You guys take care.
Thank you.
Bye.
Nice. Cool. So I guess I'm gonna break off my computer from the Hangout right now, and then let's see. We've eaten all the pizza, but there's still some beer. So I think we've actually gotten to the point where you might need to pump while holding the spout open. Remember. And I'm going to go ahead and set up my computer back here, I think. Yeah. Yeah, like so Thursday. Yeah, Thursday we're going to have a 3-hour workshop. Thursday we're going to have 3 hours available to us, and it's going to be like 1 hour talking spread out, and the rest with laptops out, right, with tables. On Thursday, Wilshire near San Vicente. 1420 Wilshire. No, that's not right. 7420, something where yeah. Wait a minute, that's too far from downtown to be 14. It's on Meetup, exactly, please, I know. But yeah, I mean, there's plenty, like tonight, if you haven't run Ant at all, there should be plenty on our GitHub README to walk you through downloading that stuff, set your Windows variables or something. If you don't have Cygwin, if you have a PC, I would get Cygwin. Even if it's just to run through this, you can deal with whether or not you want to actually learn the command prompt and doing that way, which I've done, but just start easy, because a lot of these tools are Linux, like all the Ant, and it's just very Linux friendly. Other than that, yeah, we'll see you next time. Thank you for coming. And let's see. What playlist do I play?
What do you want to do? Most of the stuff is like native.
It's big, yeah.
It's some basic stuff. How do you install GitHub? How do you
install GitHub? Let's I don't leave the house unless I'm feeling 100%. By that I mean my battery. If you guys want to, I don't know how you guys feel. Yeah, I got one off. Yeah.
There's a conclusion to my illusion, I show you. There's no way to this confusion if you let me. Well, self-eyes, this ain't tell what to get. There is a light to all this darkness out to face. There's redemption in you back and then you quiet. It's a mess up. There's an epic spoken with me. You ain't getting it. Are you? Are you? You ain't getting it. Are you?
Energy balance analysis. Batteries.
Why we fight to get on love and now we're wondering. I don't mind will leave you hanging on little friend. Take lost and found. Never stay around you forgetting. There is a way to be yourself by showing this. There's a way to get your drink without falling asleep. I might as well forget it while you can't. You know you There is a light to one is orange. Fire is the telling us how we should be. I refuse to let you break me when you're getting
This it was lemonade. I've actually
I saw it was other
as an example, something that's being and actually a lot of these things let's say blonde needs X, Y, Z, right? I does that for source code. So it'll go out and get some management techniques. So financial force has artist object design, yeah. But and so that's the way you work. So maybe it's that. So the coach say, okay, that just daily, right there. A lot of my my softness describe You know what? It might be on my dresser. I think I left it at home.
The reason I ask is actually interested in what you guys do. Like almost just like
George, you my babysitter? Who's closing out? I mean, I've got a business card. I love it because on that page, it's like, please do, like in red bold, it's like, please do not let this persuade you into credit, you know, as opposed to Big Brother resistant cash. Yeah,
September falls, autumn's here. It hands me down, there's a black mountain. All time is the way. Nobody knocking down. We're chasing for God's home. They kept me safe from the world was home. It didn't matter where you wanted before. I never wanted for anything more. When we were nothing, we had it all. Your arms and love kept me warm and all day. Cause you gave me everything that you never had. I think of something I wanna be. Your arms and love wrap around me, and I'm coming. Cause you gave me everything that you never had. It's your hand when I cross you kiss it better easily. Even now, when it hurts the most, you're by my side. And I'm there till second goes. You keep me safe when the world is cold. It doesn't matter if they want to fall. And I don't want for anything more. No, when we were nothing, we had it all. Now all the love kept it all. Because you gave me everything that you never had. I think of something I want to be. So all the love wrapped around me, and I'm coming home. Because you gave me everything that you never had. And that's why I wish I was there.
That was actually the first one.
Yeah.
And then she texted me and she's like, ah, I gotta feel like are you actually signing? Just go over there.
Come on.
Don't you find some of the time there is always someone on your mind that shouldn't be at all in any place when you come. Don't you find some of the time
Come to the next one.
there is